what I'm hearing is that you got to the point of fuck it. And in a way that set you free to actually ask the question, is this important?
Of course, there's dumb questions in sales.
Welcome back to Personal Selling Weekly, and today I'm happy to have Jakob back. And in this episode we will dive into what you also need to master beyond having people buying into your ideas. You also sometimes need to actually be able to negotiate in a way where you are not only winning, but where everyone is winning. And if you want some inspiration in how to do that, I think this episode is really for you. So Jakob, you have promised that you would share a specific case today where you give some example of how to interact with a client so that you actually end up with a good solution. So could you just set some frame around it? What was it about?
It was a big construction site or project that we needed to do, and it had a highly intense focus from a lot of people, and they actually have some really good ideas, and we just needed to match it up with pricing and results.
Yeah.
So it's still in for landscaping and entrepreneur construction.
Yeah.
So in that kind, but I would say when it's not all about the business in construction is highly about numbers. Are you cheap enough?
Yeah.
And everybody think that's a good sale. So if you're cheap enough, then it's good. Everybody's happy, and that's not my experience. Cheap is just a way in to actually having a job.
Yeah.
But it starts before that.
Yeah.
If you can do it. Sometimes it's only price, but many times it's about actually going in to have an idea. What does this cost, and what should it cost, and what's the budget?
Yeah.
And I learned in some years ago, we can say that, having actually the mindset of a win-win culture.
Yeah.
Because having a good project and have a really good cooperation with people is also about many other things than just price.
So you were faced with this project where it was a little tense because highly influential people were actually having an interest in this, and so what was the starting point for this whole thing?
Yeah, it's as it always is that you are invited.
Yeah.
That's the first step.
Yeah.
And then you will have some drawings and materials, and you make a tender, and then you give a price, and then you see who's cheapest.
Yeah.
And in this particular project, it was also about have some alternatives.
Yeah.
So it's not only the price.
No.
And they had, as you said, really high interest in this and really big ambitions.
Yeah.
But maybe the money didn't make it all the way up.
So, but what you're saying is that after this whole tender process, you were actually in a way winning the first part of it, and then what happened?
Actually, we were two companies.
Okay,
that were invited in to have this dialogue.
Okay.
And pretty fast, I went back to normal way of negotiation and just coming with new solution, new pricing, new solution, new pricing.
So cutting down
and asking, so what doesn't you want to have? Kind of, and then lower the price. But I would say in meeting number 3 or 4, I actually have the courage to ask the customers, the people, so what kind of money do you have?
Yeah.
Because we can lower the price all the time, but at one point we can do it even cheaper, and then you will not have your project.
Okay, so they hadn't actually given you any budget frame?
No.
So they just said cheaper.
Yeah.
But then in the third meeting, it shifted for you. So what did you ask them?
Is it important to have this project?
Yeah.
And yes. Okay, then we cannot go lower than this.
Yeah.
So what does we have to do differently
than
we have done up till now?
And then what happened?
They looked at each other, actually, because we were several people in the meeting, and they were just, this is very much negotiation, and you're on your side and we are on our side. We don't share and whatever. And when I just asked, is this important, and how can we get to this if you're not sharing? Then they decided, okay, we have to share. Okay. That's perfect. And also, again, win-win. You can share this, what we're talking about, with the other company. Yeah. For me, it's not a secret.
No.
For them, it's just, okay, now we can actually go into put some numbers on the table.
Okay. So it was simply that question that shifted it for them.
Yeah.
And what was the result of that?
Actually, they opened up, and we could go behind the dream or behind the projects, because what they have chosen of materials and all of that, was that important, or was it the bigger impression that was important? And for them, it was the bigger. In some areas, and some areas it was the project and material, what you can say. And so from that on, then we could actually make, okay, so we need to kind of reach this price, but we have to do it differently after what you have been thinking.
Okay. So simply by just asking one question, in a way, you totally reframed the whole dialogue from being like secretive to actually be open and more dialogue.
Yeah. Okay. Because what I said, that having this kind of conversation and winning a tender or a project is more than just the price. Yeah. It's also understanding.
So when you now think back on it, what was it that happened in you that allowed you to actually ask that question? And why haven't you asked it already from the beginning?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because I was just wrapped in the normal process of doing stuff. And even then I knew better and have tried better. Then I was just still playing the game on their half of the playing field. But I would say also I have used a lot of resources in my employees and all that, making these tenders, making a lot of hours. And if we needed to go further, we couldn't do it in this way. No. So for me, it was actually quite easy to just ask that question, because I didn't have more time, and I actually didn't want to use more energy into it. No. If they couldn't, well, they just pumping me for information, So this traditional way of doing stuff, and then
from here, and please correct me if I'm not right. What I'm hearing is that you got to the point of fuck it.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to put in a bip there, but fuck it.
Yeah.
And in a way that set you free to actually ask the question, is this important?
Yeah. And that made the shift.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to do the project, we wanted to be a part of it, but not on that terms.
Yeah. And I think, again, for me, it sounds like a small shift, but I think having coached and trained thousands of salespeople around the globe is, I think, if they could just get that as a starting point for working with any project, it would be really valuable. Because a lot of salespeople think that they need the client more than they need you. So there's not a balance in the relationship.
Yeah. But
as soon as you introduce this, wow, actually, I don't need this project. That set you free to actually ask this question: is this important, and what is important about it? And suddenly you now in a way shift the whole mindset about the dialogue.
Yeah. And again, for that business, highly about pricing, but it's not about pricing.
No,
we just think so. So actually, it's about what's a value, because it's time a value.
Yeah,
it's a quality of value.
Yeah,
is the way of how we're working together. Is that a value?
Yeah.
So all of that you can put in to actually put some value into the project and the pricing without change the price.
Yeah.
And for them, it's just, okay, we got now higher value in the project than if it's only the price.
Okay.
We want them to actually do this project.
So again there, so what did you actually learn from having this meeting with that client that day?
Again, I would say go underneath. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
What's the story about it? Because I know what I've heard, I know what I've been written, and I've been seen, but why is this actually important, and is it important?
Yeah.
So going back, just be relaxed and be okay with just listening, because you can have a pretty good idea if people are not going to buy anything by you.
Yeah.
Okay, then just stop the process.
Yeah.
But if they have some kind of, we want to make this happen.
Yeah.
Then it's okay. So why?
Yeah.
Again, use just the question why. Why does we need to do this?
Yeah.
And they will start up explaining. And from that point, having a win-win.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you don't have all the money. You have some of the money.
Yeah.
But we can still do something else.
Yeah.
To actually add value into the project. And that's why we actually start up to have a win-win. What's important for you and what's important for us, and how can we actually build, because we have skills and we have knowledge that we can put into the project, which normally we will help ourselves. So that's a shift.
And again, I like the story because it's a very simple example. But the question to you, sitting here and listening today, is what would it take for you to show up to your next customer meeting being like this, actually having a win-win mindset? Because I think if you can find the answer to that, then your life will be much more easy. Again, if you have a good answer, please put it down in the comments below, because then I think a lot of people could really benefit from that answer. So how do you know that you're actually in this win-win mindset before you go into a client meeting? I hope this episode today have inspired you to improve the way you work with your customers, and I look forward to see you again here next week.